Christine got the announcement Tuesday. Skip-level email, promotion to senior manager. Kevin was on the CC line. Kevin had trained Christine 2 years ago. Kevin had run the migration project she was being promoted for stewarding. 6 quarters of fixing systems the company refused to staff. None of it was in the email. None of it was in the room. The work was real. It had simply happened in places no one with authority was watching. That is not a fluke. That is Rule 1 of a system you were never handed at orientation. 15 rules, 3 layers. The first layer decides who is seen. The second decides who is steerable. The third decides who is contained. You were trained for none of them. The people promoted around you were trained for all 3. By the end, you will know the single move that flips which one decides your trajectory. Inside the institution, what cannot be observed by power cannot be valued by it. Output is not the currency. Witnessed output is. 5 rules run this layer. None of them will be named to you. Start with what your manager actually measures. Effort is not the variable. Usefulness to the agenda sitting above your manager is. Kevin spent 3 nights rebuilding the pipeline that runs every Thursday. Nobody named it. Christine reshaped a deck, using the data Kevin had prepped, and made the director look sharp in front of his VP. She got cited in the all hands. Kevin got assigned the next understaffed initiative. Quality was not the variable. Visibility to the right room was. And here is where it turns against you. Dependability is praised in the early years. Then it shifts. Once the institution has classified you as someone who absorbs without escalating, your reliability stops being a virtue and becomes a logistics plan. The understaffed project lands on your desk with the sentence, "We trust you with this." Translate the sentence honestly. It is not recognition. It is staffing without budget approval. Nobody will check on you. Then there is the sentence above you that you will never hear out loud. Performance does not write your story. The sentence said about you in rooms you never enter writes it. One senior leader says, technically sharp but not strategic. That sentence does not need evidence. It needs repetition. Then doors close that used to open. You will not be told why. You will feel the temperature shift and assume it is something you did. It was something said. Watch what happens to the credit for your work. Quiet excellence is not rewarded. It is overwritten. You build the deliverable. Someone else summarizes it in the meeting. By the next review cycle, that person owns the project inside the institution's memory. Nobody corrects it. The institution has no way to attach output to the person who produced it. Credit attaches to whoever stood next to the result the moment a decision-maker looked. Now sit in any senior meeting and watch the choreography. Meetings are not information exchanges. They are dominance choreography. Watch who interrupts. Watch whose suggestion goes unacknowledged and then resurfaces in someone more senior's mouth, treated as the new direction. You watched it happen. The room moved on without flagging anything. The hierarchy updated in real time. Nothing about the transfer was acknowledged. That is the visibility layer. 5 rules. 1 shared blind spot. The fix is not louder work. The fix is engineering one moment, every cycle, where a decision-maker watches your output arrive with your name on it. Pick the one room above you that decides what gets remembered. Put one deliverable into that room narrated in your own voice. Let everything else stay quiet. The institution cannot promote what it has never watched arrive. So you fix the visibility layer. The institution finally sees you, which is exactly when it moves to neutralize you. The selection criterion shifts. The question is no longer whether you produce. The question is whether you can be steered. 5 more rules, all designed to keep you smaller than your output. Promotions follow a different math than the one you were shown. They do not go to the strongest operator. They go to the operator who threatens least. Picture a calibration meeting. 2 analysts sit on the bubble for the same opening. One has cleaner output and a record of pushing back in writing on calls the room got wrong. The other is steadier in the room, asks fewer questions, and the manager can predict every response before it lands. The second one moves up, not occasionally, as a pattern. Leadership rewards minimum disruption, not maximum performance. Likeability has a ceiling. Manageability does not. Likeability is one variable. The one that decides routing is manageability. Picture Kevin and Marcus on the same team. Kevin is sharper, surfaces problems faster, pushes back when a deadline is fantasy. Marcus is less precise but absorbs every direction without friction. Under quarterly pressure, the manager routes the visible assignments to Marcus, not because the work will be better, because the manager's working memory has more room. Being the person who makes leadership's day quieter is a career strategy nobody puts in writing. Boundaries operate on a rule nobody explains to you on day one. Limits without consequences are not limits. You can announce them in every check-in. If your behavior continues to absorb whatever lands on your desk, your stated limit is a preference. The institution treats preferences as overridable. The boundary only registers the day your behavior costs the institution something specific. Until then, it is decoration. And then there is the axis that has no name. Performance is the visible one. Steerability is the one nobody names. The day you start asking for credit, for equity, for input on direction is the day the second axis activates. Your manager's replies shrink. The distribution list for the rooms that used to include you starts to thin. Nobody tells you anything has changed. The institution has a label for what just happened. The needs alignment bucket, the one nobody tells you exists, is where your file now sits. You will not be notified. That label will never appear in your review. It will simply govern what you stop being chosen for. The most disguised move in this layer arrives wrapped in coaching. Feedback can grow you. It can also shrink you. The phrases land the same way as real coaching. Softer edges, fewer corners, a quieter version of you. The function is reduction. You become quieter, smaller, easier to position next to a senior stakeholder without surprise. Track the timing of every piece of feedback you receive. The closer it sits to the moment you asked a hard question, the less it is feedback, the more it is correction. The counter move here is the inverse of what corporate has trained you to do. Stop optimizing to be seen as steerable on everything. Start optimizing to be predictable on the one outcome that matters and impossible to redirect on it. Steerability without an anchor reads as compliance. Steerability with one non-negotiable reads as judgment. The institution stops compressing the people it cannot quietly redirect. 5 rules. That was the control layer. Your steerability now has an anchor. The institution sees you. It cannot quietly redirect you. It has one move left. Every protection you were promised, HR, loyalty, indispensability, turns out to be the containment instrument itself, optimized for the institution's exposure, not for your safety. 5 final rules. This is the layer most workers do not see until it activates on them. HR runs a question you were never in the room for. It is not your advocate. HR is institutional risk management with a friendlier vocabulary. When you file a complaint, the conversation in the closed-door room is not about whether you were treated unfairly. It is about whether the organization has legal exposure. The procedure that follows is built to answer that second question, not the first. Documentation requests. Whether written policy was breached in a way that creates liability. You walked in expecting advocacy and met the operating system for the first time. Nobody who walks out of that room leaves with the same assumptions. Then, there is the pattern that turns competence into a life sentence. Fixing dysfunction is not rewarded with promotion. It is rewarded with permanence in the dysfunction. You stabilized the failing project. You covered for the 2 roles that were never backfilled. You held the team together through the quarter that should have collapsed. The institution registered exactly one fact about you. It is that you absorbed dysfunction without escalating it. The root cause does not get fixed. Kevin became the duct tape they refused to budget for. He just did not have the budget line to prove it. Your skill is now infrastructure. Infrastructure belongs to no one and gets promoted by no one. Loyalty operates on its own asymmetry. It flows in one direction. The institution asks you to hold through the bad quarters. You hold. You are told this is a team. Then the budget shifts. Leadership repositions. Your role becomes inconvenient. The loyalty you committed disappears in a room you never entered. The institution reserves the right to be strategic. You are expected to be devoted. Kevin held through 6 quarters. The meeting that ended that loyalty did not include him. The same word covers both sides. Only one direction is binding. Before any layoff email goes out, a list has already been written. It is compiled by the person controlling spend, not the person reviewing your work. The names on it are not chosen for cost. They are chosen for explainability. If the budget owner cannot say what you do in one line, your name is already there. You have just not been told yet. Which brings us to Rule 15, the ultimate override. You survived the cuts because of what was written about you, not because of what you produced. Job security is not built on being critical to your team. It is built on being narratable, in one sentence by someone in a budget meeting who has never seen your work. What cannot be summarized above you cannot be defended when budgets compress. The names that survive layoffs are not the most important. They are the most explainable. So you engineer that sentence yourself. One line. A senior leader sitting in a calibration room could repeat it without you, specific enough to be memorable, narrow enough to be repeatable, concrete enough to survive a budget compression. That same sentence reroutes the 2 layers above it. 3 systems, 1 line. 6 quarters is what it took Kevin to see this. By the time the pattern becomes visible, 2 performance cycles have already shaped your record. Not because you were not good, because you were never told what was being measured. This is not networking. Networking is being known. Engineering your sentence is being narratable. 2 different moves. The institution will defend the second one for you, even when you are not in the room. Christine got the promotion on a Tuesday. Kevin opened the email and saw the system for the first time. Not because Christine was unqualified, because the system never measured what Kevin had been doing. It only measured what was visible, steerable, and explainable. By the next quarter, Kevin stopped optimizing for the first rulebook. He stopped competing on raw output. He started architecting a sentence, narrow and specific, about one outcome the company could not deliver without him. 3 months later, his name was the one being repeated in rooms he was not invited into. He became the one person on the org chart whose removal would have required a sentence nobody knew how to write. If Rule 9 landed harder than the rest, the part about being silently filed into what HR codes as the needs alignment bucket, that label is not abstract. Inside most large companies, there is an actual grid your name has already been placed in. Performance on one axis, potential on the other. 9 boxes. Your manager filled it in during a calibration meeting you never knew was happening. The video on screen right now opens that grid and shows exactly which box gets promoted, which box gets managed out, and which box decides every assignment you receive for the next 3 years. You are already in one of them.